Hello and welcome to the debate we are having today. I'd like to start by giving a thank you to everyone in the audience, my member of government, my members and leader of the opposition, the judge in this case, and our peanut gallery. I would like to start by defining this debate, which is this House would abolish the death penalty, as a policy debate. We are defining this House as the Tennessee legislature. We are defining abolish as make illegal or ban. And we are defining death penalty as the taking of life by the state as a punishment for crime. The judging criteria we would like to ask would be the best value for Tennessee citizens. And with that, I am going to go into the harms. So our first harm is that this program is overly expensive. It costs $11,668 to execute an inmate in Tennessee, and this includes medical, security, chemical, and other personnel needed for an execution. Our second harm is that there is a toll on jurors who are deciding these cases. They are 6 times more likely to come down with depression compared to those in non-traumatic trials. And our third harm is the execution of innocent people. 1 in 25 people are actually innocent, and this is according to a study by the Academy of Sciences. And so our plan to combat this is very simple. This would go into effect July 1st, 2017, the start of the fiscal year. And it would make the death penalty illegal by passing a law addressing that. So once again, I'd like to read over our harms. Our first harm is that this is overly expensive. It's going to keep costing too much to execute an inmate as compared to keeping an inmate alive. There's extra emotional toll on jurors that really isn't fair on them, because they're 6 times more likely to be depressed, and there's more executions of innocent people, which we cannot have. With that, I would like to cede the rest of my time.
Hello. First, I would like to welcome y'all again and thank y'all for being here. I would like to thank my member of opposition and the members of government for bringing such an excellent argument for us today. With that said, I would like to get right into it. First off, I would like to say that we would agree to their terms of this argument and concur that they are valid points. With that said, I will get right into their harms that they have brought forward. Their first harm was that the death penalty is overly expensive. Well, this is not necessarily the fault of the death penalty itself. This is a fault of the bureaucracy and there are many other problems associated with this that are not necessarily just the cause of the death penalty itself. There are many ways that this can be streamlined, and as they said, the chemicals that they had to use in order to kill someone, well, there are many other ways in which we could kill someone which would be more cost effective and would not cost anywhere close to the $11,660 for the lethal injection. With that said, we'll move on to point number 2. The toll on the jurors, that they said that this caused many more people to go into depression when they have to be a juror on this kind of a case. Well, this is the juror's job. Just because it causes them depression does not mean that these cases don't have to be decided on. The cases are going to happen regardless, and just because the removal of the death penalty, just because they would remove the death penalty, this would not cause these types of cases to go away, and therefore would not remove any toll on the jurors. This would still cause a toll to be had on the jurors regardless of the decision. Also, the toll on the victims' families is much greater than it would be on the jurors, and would cause them to, would cause them to have depression if they knew that one of their family members was killed, or any other crime committed to one of their family members, and they knew that that person was released without any due cause, or without any right judgment on them. Moving on to their third point, that the execution of innocent people is brought about by the death penalty. The term innocent does not necessarily mean that the person did not do this. What the statistics they used was that 1 in 25 people are innocent, but that does not mean that the people did not commit that crime. What this is that 1 in 25 people are considered not guilty by the court of law. This does not mean that they necessarily did not commit these crimes, and therefore should not be considered completely innocent of this crime. So moving on to our counterpoint, there was a study done by the University of Colorado in Denver that for every person that is put on death row, there are 5 homicides that are prevented. And for every person that is released from death row, there are 5 homicides that are added and are increased. So the death penalty has been proven to reduce homicides, and therefore is better for the state of Tennessee and for the welfare of each of the Tennessee citizens. With that, I'd like to reserve my time, and thank y'all.
Hello, everyone. As everyone else has, I'd like to welcome everyone to our debate today. Thank you to my partner who's helped me set up this case, and thank you to the opposition who's giving us a good argument. Thank you to our audience, and of course, thank you to our judge. I'm going to go ahead and get right into the flow of the argument and address some of the things that the leader of opposition brought up. The first counterpoint they gave to our harm is that the overexpense of the death penalty is really due to the fault of the system rather than the penalty itself. He mentioned things like the bureaucracy associated and the choice of chemicals used, these types of things. But it's very important to remember that there is a good reason why we have all of that bureaucracy and a death penalty situation. We have to make sure this person is actually guilty, or is actually guilty of the crime before we sentence them to death. That bureaucracy, if we were to have the death penalty, is absolutely necessary. Otherwise, more innocent people will be killed. That expense has to be there, and it is always going to cost for the medical supplies, the security needed to perform an execution, and we need to make sure that the process of execution isn't cruel and unusual, some kind of torture. We need to make sure it's something that is medically sound. So we really can't reduce the cost as much as I believe the opposition would like to think. The second point they brought on was that the jurors. This is their job, the jurors who have 6 times more likely to experience depression dealing with death row cases. This is their job. But we need to look at, the difference between, as they brought up, the toll on families and the toll on the jurors. These are 2 very different situations. When you're talking about a toll on the family, of course, there's a huge toll on a family when someone in their family has been murdered, obviously. But the toll on the juror is different. This toll is that the juror has blood on their hands if they make the wrong decision. If they feel that they weren't as sure as they wanted to be about their ruling, they may have killed an innocent person, and that is in their hands. That's a very different type of emotional toll to take on a person. And I'm going to go ahead and go into the third counterpoint of the Leader of Opposition, which is basically attacking the methodology of our case that we got from the Proceedings of National Academy of the Sciences that says that 1 in 25 people are innocent which are put on death row. They're exonerated. Or they are innocent, excuse me. The methodology of that basically said that about 1.5% of people that are put on death row are exonerated, and with that we can conclude that many more than that are actually innocent, but they were never exonerated in time. And what the Leader of Opposition seemed to be implying is that, yes, yeah, your first.
Yes, so you're saying that the research for this survey that concluded that 1 in 25 people sentenced are in fact innocent. That sounds like it's more or less just an extrapolation from existing data.
Oh, this was done by sound statisticians from the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences. This is an established institution. Their methodology was sound and scientific. Okay, and I would just like to go ahead and say the Leader of Opposition seemed to be implying that, well, that doesn't mean that these people were innocent. That doesn't mean we're killing innocent people. We are killing innocent people. A study from Columbia University looked into the case of Carlos de Luna from Texas. And what they found through their study is that Carlos de Luna was most likely an innocent person who was killed by the state. And he was killed by the state because of shoddy police work, prosecution failure, a weak defense, and he maintained innocence the entire time up until the time that he died. We are killing innocent people. It's happening. We cannot deny that, and that's not something the state should be doing. And that brings me into my answer to the counterpoint that we will save 5 people by putting a new person on death row. The basic foundation of our argument here is that the state should not be in the business of killing people. We are trying to address these crimes of homicide by committing homicide, likely to people who are innocent. The state does not need to be in that business. That does not mean we release these murderers. It just means that we put them life in prison. We're not in the business of killing them. That's a crime. That's the crime they committed. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and urge a vote in favor of the government, and I'll yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Hello to everyone in the room. I'd like to thank everyone for being in attendance today. I'd like to thank my member of the opposition for putting together a good argument. I'd like to thank the members of the government for putting together their argument as well, and I'd like to thank the members of the peanut gallery for being here in attendance as well. Thank you all. I will begin my time today by going right into their first counterpoint, the member of government's counterpoint, and that's that there's a good reason that there's paperwork for all the bureaucracy that goes in to the death penalty. She says that the paperwork's there and the bureaucracy's there to make sure that innocent people aren't dying. Yet at the same time, she's still saying that innocent people are dying. So her justification for this bureaucracy is defeated in her own words later on. However, I will say that if their proposition is to keep people, instead of killing people that we've deemed to be guilty of crimes, instead of killing them, instead of doing the prudent thing that we've done for generations as a civilization, what's the alternative? To just keep people alive in prison until the day they die, in which case is that really a death penalty, or is it really getting rid of the death penalty, or is it just death by prison? Also, we need to consider the fact that it is very possible to look at a cheaper means of execution, as my member of the opposition, or as my leader of the opposition said in his first speech. We see an example out of Texas where they have not only saw to the continuing use of the death penalty, but they have actually expedited its process, making it to where that if there is 3 or more witnesses to a crime, then the process will be expedited. The man will not sit on death row for years and years and years eating up tax dollars for no good reason. Your first of 2.
Would you agree that expediting the process of the death penalty would, by definition, end up killing more innocent people because that person does not have a proper appeals process in place? They're not really given that fair trial?
If it's done right, yes, I do, because there's not a whole lot of a difference. The first appeal is going to, or there's not a whole lot of a difference that a fourth or fifth appeal is going to make that the first or second didn't seem to already make in the first place. So, on to that. My rebuttal to their second counter argument, the one where they said that jurors may have blood on their hands, and that is the weight that they bear. Well, yes, that is the weight that they bear, actually. That is the price we pay for civilization. It is a part of the judicial process. They understand that they, being an integral part of the criminal justice system, may have to take responsibility for themselves. That is a part of the social contract we live under as a society. Moving on to our third point against their third point, and that is that we were critical of their first assertion that 1 in 25 people are found innocent, and that was apparently based on some study. And in my question to the member of government, I was skeptical of the methodology of this survey, and I'm still skeptical of it, because what it sounds like they've done is that it sounds like they've taken pre-existing data and they've done nothing more but extrapolate on it instead of actually building a case as to why it is actually legitimate. So, I would say that this evidence is soft at best, whereas we have actually provided evidence from the University of Colorado that suggests that the death penalty is not only effective, but it is so effective that it needs to be kept in place because it helps to maintain order in society. Part of the reason we have the death penalty in the first place is because we want to instill into people the belief that if you kill people, you yourself will face justice. That's justice in the first place. But is it justice to just have them sit in a room for the rest of their life off tax dollars, or is it justice to actually not do that? If we're going off of the judging criteria, which is what is best for the people of the state, then we need to not waste time on these people who are lesser than citizens. Finally, on to one of the other points they made. They brought up a case where a young man who was believed to be innocent was killed. Again, the judging criteria is what's best for the people of the state. And as unfortunate as it may be that if an innocent man is put to death, but if we are to consider the fact that the death penalty ends up saving lives, then it can be considered that this is an objective benefit for the population, that we still use the death penalty, even though it may have unintended consequences. Nothing in our society is perfect. We're all humans. On to our final point, and that is that they said that the state shouldn't be in the business of killing people. It's not in the best interest of the population to keep people alive, plain and simple, ladies and gentlemen. We don't need to be up here wasting untold numbers of tax dollars to keep people who aren't even contributing to the society alive. So, yes, the state has a responsibility to act in the best interest of its citizens, and I believe it is firmly in the place to do so. Thank you.
I would like to thank you all again for coming today, and this has been a very good debate. There's been many points brought forward by both sides, and with that, I would like to get straight into it. First, I have 3 voters today. The first one is the death penalty reduces homicide. Again, going back to the study done by the University of Colorado in Denver, it reduced homicides by 5 with each person put on the death row, and therefore this is what is best for the people of the state of Tennessee. The more homicides that are removed from, or more homicides that are prevented means safer place for the populace, and therefore would increase the life of everyone and would reduce much turmoil that is caused by homicides each year. So our second voter is the death penalty, or the system that is used through the death penalty, can be reformed to reduce error and become more cost effective. Just because there are flaws with the system does not mean that we should remove the ideal principle of it. We can change things and make it better and make it to where it will improve everyone. And as I stated earlier, the death penalty is very good for the populace, and so we should not just remove it because there are some flaws with it. And our third voter is that the death penalty is foundational to the justice system of the United States. It has been in place since the beginning and was one of the foundational laws that was used when we first became a nation, and many countries have used it. It has been used very thoroughly through history and has been proven to reduce crime, reduce homicides, and is very beneficial to the nation if used properly. So with that, I would like to urge a vote for the opposition, and thank you all for listening to my argument, and have a great day.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to give a final round of thanks to everyone in attendance today, my member of government, the members of the opposition, our judge, and peanut gallery. We have 4 voters here today, and I'm going to start by saying that our first voter, which is that this would be cheaper if we just ended the death penalty altogether, really goes to our criteria, which was that the best value for Tennessee citizens. The death penalty, as we've stated earlier, costs $11,668 to execute on average in the state of Tennessee, and this is just a gross overcost that ends life and does really nothing for the people of the state of Tennessee. Our second voter is the toll it takes on jurors. As we stated earlier, it's 6 times more likely that a juror in these types of cases would experience depression compared to those in non-traumatic cases. There's been some responses by the opposition stating that perhaps it wouldn't, or perhaps it would, this is a civic duty, but causing a third party this kind of pain and depression really, once again, does not go to the criteria of best value for Tennessee citizens. Our third voter is the basically the execution of innocent people. That is what the death penalty has led to. And our belief on that, once again, goes back to the study by the National Academy of Sciences. And we believe that the methodology on that, like we have said, is sound. 1 in 25 people are actually innocent. And our fourth voter is that the state shouldn't commit crimes that they try to prevent. If we are trying to prevent murder, then we don't believe it's the state's place to come in and say when someone should or should not be killed. We believe that that is a gross overstep by the state, and that it is better off that the state not try to go eye for an eye and rather just execute a life sentence rather than deciding when a life should be ended. I'm going to quickly go through our voters again. Our first voter is that it would be cheaper for the people of Tennessee. Our second is that the toll on jurors would be much less. Our third voter is that there would be less execution of innocent people. And our fourth is that the state shouldn't commit crimes that they are trying to actually prevent. With that, I would like to urge a strong vote in favor of government and yield the rest of my time.